Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, folks, I'm going to ask you a very simple question. Let's assume the Mets have Pete Alonso in the fold. All right, I know this saga has been long, it's been drawn out, but let's assume the Mets have something they're working on right now and that a deal will come to fruition in the next couple of days. All right, so we have Pete Alonso in the fold, Juan Soto in tow. We have a whole revamped bullpen with AJ Minter behind Edwin Diaz. So our bullpen is looking pretty nice, pretty fresh. Here's the question, folks. Are we possibly one or two pieces away? And those pieces being a frontline starting pitcher, possibly a Dylan Cease. So are we a Dylan Cease away from being serious, legit World Series contenders or possibly World Series winners? Because most prognosticators right now have the Mets around the fourth or the fifth best team in all of baseball, right? You have, let's see, you have the Dodgers. Maybe you want to throw the Yankees in the mix. A lot of the AL teams I'm not really too concerned about. I'm not concerned about the Orioles, the Red Sox, they need to prove it before I consider them anything to be worried about. But really, there's not many teams. I know if you go to the National League, there are some more teams to be concerned about. If the Yankees are that one team in the American League, which I think we are better than, but let's go to the National League. You got the Braves, possibly, if everybody's healthy, they are a team to reckon with. The Phillies, I'm never afraid of the Phillies. I don't know what it is. It just seems like when push comes to shove, we're better than the Phillies. And then you have other teams like the Padres, the Arizona D-backs. But the D-backs, I just need that team to really kind of prove it over the course of a season. And still, when push came to shove last year, we were able to beat out the D-backs. So right now, I would say you have the Dodgers, maybe the Braves, the Mets, the Yankees, and that's where you hear the Mets are sliding in around the fourth or the fifth best team in baseball. But if the Mets were to get a Dylan Cease or even a Michael King and the Padres just came to an agreement, I believe it was yesterday, on a one-year deal. They avoided arbitration. Good for them. But if the Mets were to get a pitcher like the Dylan Cease, could that elevate the team into a different stratosphere? And I think, folks, there is really no doubt about it because I'm not just looking at Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease would head up the rotation. He would most likely be that anchor that we desperately need. But I project to how would this look in a playoff series? Having a Dylan Cease, having a Sean Manaea, and having a Kodai Senga. In a potential 7-game series, you could pitch those three pitchers 2 games apiece. So in a 7-game series, you're going to have very reliable starters. Kodai Senga pitching 2 games. God hope wrestling. God willing, the guy's healthy, but he would pitch 2 games. Sean Manaea pitches 2 games, and then you have Dylan Cease pitching 2 games. And if it was 20 years ago, I'd say the guy would be pitching 3 games. So having 3 men that are reliable would be more than enough. But I don't think that's the case. I think Dylan Cease, you really, really have to analyze that opportunity. Now, the thing is, where do you hear people saying it's not going to happen? Well, the Padres, they're a team in the past who have been really notorious for wheeling and dealing. That is a team that is not afraid to pull the trigger. That is a team that is not afraid to seize the moment, and they are a team that is very familiar with the term opportunity cost. Opportunity cost means that if you don't make a move, what would you give up, right? So right now we know we have guys like Jet Williams. We have a slew of prospects with potential value, right? But they're sitting in the minor leagues. How much value did they present to our major league roster this year? Maybe they come up for a few games depending on which prospects they are. But this year, they don't provide much value. If you swing those players, you put the right package together, and I will stress the right package. In the last couple of days, Brandon Sproat was a guy thrown out there. I don't think that would be worth it in my perspective. In my perspective, I tried to finagle how another person or the Mets may deem it to be worth it. Maybe if their scouts think he's going to be good, but he's not going to be the guy, or they don't think he's going to be an ace. Regardless, I think that would be an impossible thing to detect right now, especially when most prognosticators say that this guy is one of the most talented minor league pitchers out there. I believe he's the third best ranked pitcher in all of the minor leagues. So the kid's got potential galore, and that's a guy that you would love to have in your rotation for 6 years, because us Mets fans know we don't really have any youth in our rotation. I mean, Peterson, McGill, those are our young guys, and those, Peterson's going to be in the rotation most likely. McGill, not even in the rotation at the moment, but we don't have any youth in the rotation, none whatsoever. Nice pitchers, Kodai Senga, Manaya, but those are guys that aren't our future. Those are nice, stable pieces. So a guy like Sproat to me presents so much value that you cannot give away for a 1-year rental. That's the hang up. If you're telling me you're getting 3 years of a pitcher, okay, Brandon Sproat, I would definitely consider, because in that 3 years where you have your ace, you could potentially resign him, or you could potentially develop another guy like Brandon Sproat. So he's a guy I've thought about and I don't want to give up. Jonah Tong is another guy that I've heard, hey, you know what? You can build a package around Jonah Tong. Maybe Jet Williams. I mean, obviously everybody knows the names. We've been over them a million times, but it's those top echelon guys where you have to decipher, is it worth giving up for a 1-year rental? And then I'm going to pose a question to you, and that talks about opportunity cost. The moves you don't make, if you don't get a Dylan Cease, will that cost you a World Series? Because these guys right now, as it stands, most likely are going to be in the minor leagues, not contributing much to the major league roster. Yes, you might have a Mauricio, Beatty might come up, but the guys that the Padres want or really desire, like, they might want a McGill as a second or third piece, but they're going to want that top prospect, Jet Williams, a Brandon Sproat, Ryan Clifford. I mean, they might want one of these guys that may not have a big role on your 2025 team. Would you risk giving up one of those guys for a potential championship? That is the question. And it's a good question. It is a good question. I would answer it like this. I would answer it in the way that I trust David Stearns, and he has to put a package together that makes sense. Meaning, okay, we have positions already blocked off. Vientos at third base, at least for now. Shortstop, we have Lindor, obviously. Second base, possibly Acuna. McNeil's there. First base, potentially Ryan Clifford. So Ryan Clifford is a guy, unless you're getting a Guerrero, you can't trade Clifford because we're going to possibly need him in the future. Shortstop, Jet Williams, he may be expendable. Drew Gilbert, he may be expendable. Guys like that who have positions already that are blocked off. And then there are lower players or players in the minor leagues that, Padres might specifically be interested in. You just got to work a deal that really, really makes sense. But you may have to be willing to give up a little more than you're comfortable with. And I think if it's at the end of the day, if it's going to put your roster in a situation where you feel your chances are that much better to win a championship, folks, we haven't won a championship in 30 years. We have, what do I mean, 30 years? Almost 40 years. It's time. It is time right now. And there's never a guarantee. There's certainly never a guarantee, but there are moves you can make that put your team in a different stratosphere. Now, let's continue to look at what the tough road in this pitching market is right now. The rumors right now, we all know they are swirling. And I got to say, I'm with you. I've heard these rumors over and over and over. And at the end of the day, Mets fans, we don't want to continue to hear rumors. We want to hear results. The Padres, I like hearing rumors with them because I know they are a team, like I mentioned, that pulls the trigger. So Will Salmon noted that the Padres are looking for major league talent along with prospects that the Mets may not want to part with. So, that was the latest info on what they may be looking for, but major league talent that the Mets may not want to part with. I guess it would depend which major league talent do they want. Is it Mark Vientos? Then it's not worth it. It is not really worth it. But if you can put a package together for Tyler McGill, a Marte, a McNeil, and then give top prospects along with that, pay salary, be a little creative. All right, so in a trade, Cease should fetch the Padres either major league talent, an attractive batch of prospects, or a combination of both. After receiving 5 players in their trade with the New York Yankees involving Juan Soto ahead of last season, the Padres probably have their sights set pretty high. In the Soto deal, the Padres acquired significant major league talent, including starting pitcher Michael King. Given that return, it's no surprise that the Padres are aiming high in any potential trade involving Cease. San Diego's front office likely views Cease as a frontline starter who could bring back a similar mix of big league talent and high upside prospects. That poses a challenge for the Mets, who may be hesitant to part with their top young players, especially after emphasizing long-term sustainability under David Stearns. You know, and that is the thing. That is the thing that we're weighing. Like, we're talking about long-term success under David Stern, and that is why I say in the next 3 or 4 years, you look at that window. Okay, if you traded Jet Williams, is he going to be blocked? Yes, he's going to be blocked. So that is a guy that I would be willing to trade, and that's how you really evaluate the trade package. So yes, you're going to be looking at the long-term future still, and that's also where you have to consider if you're going to trade for a guy like Cease. How likely is it that he's going to resign? That's also another thing that your guys, your front office executives have to figure out before you pull the trigger. You most certainly have to figure that out. But then also, I don't think the Padres should really be so confused over the package. If they're thinking that a Juan Soto is the equivalent player or equivalent package because Juan Soto had 1 year left, no, that's not the package. You go look at the package that the Padres sent out last year to acquire Dylan Cease, and then you subtract from that because Dylan Cease had 2 years left on his deal. Now he only has 1 year left. So let's take a look at the trade that we had last year for Dylan Cease. All right, so just in terms of value, when Dylan Cease went from the White Sox to the Padres, the team he's on right now, the Padres sent 3 of their top 10 prospects and a righty reliever, Steven Wilson, to Chicago. So Steven Wilson, I'm not really going to count him, but they sent 3 of their top 10 prospects, right? So you really kind of determine, I guess, how, 3 of the top 10 prospects in the Padres system could be different, well different than 3 of the top 10 prospects in the Boston Red Sox system. So depending on how the system was ranked last year, I don't think the Padres system was ranked too high last year. I think they were about mid to, bottom 2/3 of the league. So the prospects, obviously, they got, a Drew Thorpe. That was a piece that they got from the Yankees in the Juan Soto trade. That was shipped out, and then they shipped out another 2 prospects. So if they did 3 top 10 prospects last year, this year it should be theoretically 2 top 10 prospects because you're not going to get as high of a value that you got when you acquired Cease because Cease had 2 years on the contract. Now he will only have 1 year on the contract. He's another year older. It would probably have to be 2 top 10 prospects. And even if it's 1 top 10 prospect, maybe it's a higher end. Would you be willing to do, like I keep going back to, a Jet Williams, building the package around a Jet Williams? I mean, would you do a Jet Williams, a Tyler McGill? The third piece, you're hearing could be a Brett Beatty. It could be a Tyler McGill because it looks like they want a prospect. They want a couple pieces that can contribute at the major league level. So I think they're going to want that 1 top 10 prospect. I think it's going to be hands down. I think Jet Williams could be the guy. He really could be the guy. I'm definitely eliminating a Brandon Sproat. I'm definitely eliminating a Ryan Clifford. Those are the guys that I really can't give up right now. But Jet Williams, I think honestly, I think that would get a deal done. If you do a Tyler McGill, if you do a Jet Williams, and maybe you throw in another piece, you're giving up a lot of value there. You are giving up a lot of value. And if the Padres don't want to do it, and you have to really kind of see what would close the gap, but it's opportunity cost, folks. It is opportunity cost, and we know we are one pitcher short from being that legit contender. And like I broke it down in the beginning of the video, if you have that frontline starter to go together with Sean Manaea and Kodai Senga in a 7-game series, you are looking good. You are sitting pretty. And then God forbid, Brandon Sproat develops into some dynamic weapon. Then you have him to boot on top of that. Not to mention, what if Clay Holmes turns out to be a significant weapon? What if Frankie Montas actually goes into the pitching lab and comes out a legit pitcher? There are so many good things or outcomes that come together with getting that extra weapon. Then, if everybody turns out to be pretty decent, now you have a huge trading chip where you can recover some capital that you lost when you traded for Dylan Cease. You got to play chess here, folks. You got to play chess. And that's what I think David Stearns is doing. But it takes time. It takes time. I mean, if you want, honestly, you want everything built in a day, if it falls apart tomorrow, don't cry. Don't cry. If you're going to build it the right way, it takes time. All right, folks. I got to run to work right now. But thank you so much. Have a great day. And I will speak to everybody soon.